And I'm Moshe, coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. And today is the 29th of September, and I'm late this morning, 8:47. Had a lot to do. And slept in slightly, got up at 6 o'clock. Guess I needed the rest. Um, we'll go through the news and do our spiritual warfare and talk about what's going on. The big thing I want to present to you is I think Trump is doing a ruse or a fake out with this meeting of 800 generals and admirals. I don't think it's happening. And I'll cover that with you. Trump's 21-point ceasefire peace plan, I think, is another ruse. I don't think that's happening. I don't even think it has a chance. It requires, as a minimum, Hamas has to give back all the hostages at onset. Yeah, they'll get exchanged prisoners from our jails. They got to give them all back. Okay? Now, I'm seeing them playing games already. What do I mean? They said, well, we lost contact with two of the hostages. Well, they might lose contact with two more, or maybe just the two, and then after they give all the hostages back, except those two, they'll find those two and have more hostages. You know, they're such liars. Literally, I don't think they could tell the truth. Okay? I don't think they could. Trump is now telling Qatar that if these Hamas leaders that are in Qatar now, of leaders of Hamas, don't accept the peace treaty, he wants them out of Qatar. But that's not a problem. They'll go to Turkey or Egypt. Easy steezy, no problem. Trump's got emptiness there. There's nothing to threaten with, really. You think they don't have five-star hotels in Turkey and Egypt? Guess again. You think Turkey and Egypt don't have good security services that could protect them? Think again. They do. Do you think Israel's going to be so quick to attack Turkey and Egypt with missiles to kill these guys? No, they're actually safer in Turkey and Egypt. Turkey, being in a NATO country, is in a precarious situation with that. But he doesn't care. All right. We'll go through why I think that's a ruse, and there were some incidents that happened in Europe with Russia yesterday. We'll cover those. They're serious. And there is a large amount of refueling tankers that took off to Europe last night. Let me see if I could get a count as to how many refueling tankers. wow, this was huge. Over 30 U.S. Air Force tankers, including a mix of KC-135 Stratotankers and KC-46 Pegasus aircraft, were deployed. At least 31 tankers landed at 5 European air bases: Ramstein, Morone, Rota, Aviano. So they were in Germany and Spain, in Italy, and the UK. Initial blah blah blah, 24 to 28 tankers on route, with the total reaching over 30 upon arrival. This was the largest such deployment in years. So something is up, okay? You got to understand that this is, on a 10 scale, 10 being big, it's a 9. It's really large. And it's not lightweight. Let me check this thing out. No, it looks like we're all good. This is a very, very big event, okay? It's not lightweight, and don't treat it lightweight. And we'll go through some other things. Russia did a very, very big bombing in Ukraine, took out a lot of NATO personnel, and that were trainers, basically, and took out some jets, about 5 F-16s belonging to Ukraine. So to say tensions are high is an understatement. Now, none of this makes me think they're going to attack North Korea or China, okay? Nor Venezuela, but other factors lead to some type of an attack on Venezuela, but that's not a biggie. This has got 2 focus points. One is Iran and another is Russia, and they might both get it at the same time. Now, some of the refueling tankers may stay in Europe to help with an attack on Russia, and some of them may go to the Indian Ocean, to that island the UK has, to work on an attack on Iran. Or they may split them, or they may all go towards the Iranian effort, or all go towards the Russian effort. We don't know. Trump then said he was going to come to that meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, in Quantico. Now, in troubled times like this, I have an immense, huge amount of trouble believing that the Pentagon would ever do anything stupid like this and call all the American generals and admirals, plus others, high-ranking people from around the world, and with all these tensions at the same time, and gather them in Quantico for a meeting, and on top of that, have Trump show up for the meeting, which he now says he's going to do. I think it's a ruse. Now, they might take some guys and have them dress up like generals, put a general's name tag on them and stuff like that, and have them start traveling to get here for the Tuesday meeting to create more reality to it. But I don't think it's real. It's way too risky. If that place got attacked sufficiently, there would be nothing left for the American military to function. It would be easy pickings. And maybe that is exactly what happens. Maybe God does it. I have no idea. There is no taking countermeasures against God. That's non-existent. So I'm at a loss. I don't know what to tell you. I don't really know. I don't know. But it looks to me like it's a phony move. Okay, let me go into the live stream. In other words, Trump is trying to convey a message to the world, and specifically his enemies, that Tuesday is the day you can relax. Probably Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can relax because all our military brass are going to be at this meeting. Okay? Specifically his enemies, that now maybe he wants all these military leaders inside the United States so they can manage the war remotely, but that's so far-fetched and unlikely. Not really like, nah, I don't think so. And I don't think he's making some sort of policy changes, because if he was, they would do it with a memo, or they'd have the local generals meet with their people at their own base and tell them it wouldn't be this way. Do I think they're going to fire some generals? This would not be the way to do it. Okay, being a Bible-believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise and then we'll get going. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. Hang on a second, I want to check something. Okay. Let's see. We got a few prayer requests today. I've got actually an unusual amount. Let's see what we can do with those. First one is for MD, Mike Delta, MD, Mike Delta, MD. The prayer request is for healing of the left knee and hip. It's impeding ability to walk. So for MD, Mike Delta, prayer for healing of the left knee and hip. Probably a lot of pain and can't walk, so that's a healing for that for MD. Next, EC, tossed salad for EC, and we also have a prayer request for AD, Alpha Delta, AD, Alpha Delta, healing for mental issues and also protection from EC. So we want for AD, Alpha Delta, healing for mental issues and protection from EC. Okay. Prayer request for SH, Sierra Hotel. SH, Sierra Hotel, SH. Pray for physical healing and a medical procedure goes well. I guess it's an upcoming medical procedure goes well. So SH, Sierra Hotel, prayer for healing and that an upcoming medical procedure goes well. The last one is for EB, Echo Bravo, EB, Echo Bravo, EB, travel's prayer. So we would pray that EB doesn't have any problems traveling with the car or transportation or getting hotels, no lost baggage or breakdowns or accidents or bad weather or things lost or stolen or broken. Nice, pleasant trip and a travel's prayer to return home also when needed. Okay, for EB, Echo Bravo. Okay, let me remove these so I don't make mistakes. And repeat. All right. The right-wing settlers that live in what's called the West Bank, Samaria, and Judea, are encouraging Netanyahu to defy Trump and annex the West Bank and not end the Gaza war prematurely. They want a complete wipeout of Hamas, and that's the only secure. It actually, look, when Trump had it right. Hamas is either dead or they demilitarize and leave Gaza forever, and the rest of the people leave. And that's the only way Israel's going to have any safety. That's it. Okay? Period. All right? Keeping the Gazans there is not, first of all, how many Hamas and PIJ and other radical terrorist jihadists are going to impersonate being regular Gazans. Hundreds or thousands. You got a clean house. Okay? Now, Trump administration and Trump is saying they're close to a deal with Hamas. Well, I haven't heard a thing other than Hamas say 2 days ago they never got a copy of the proposal. I haven't heard a word from Hamas about this. We normally do. Always. I haven't heard anything. Is this another cock and bull story? Could be. Don't know. Netanyahu's going to the White House, I think today. Maybe it's tomorrow, but I think it's today. And he's going to obviously tell Trump that they need to annex the West Bank. Because if they don't, they're facing a two-state decision out of the UN, and then Trump will say, no, I'll veto it. And that means Trump now has his boot on Netanyahu's neck, or Israel's throat. And we got to listen to him, or he'll not veto it. And that would mean very bad things for Israel. I personally would say, if they declared Gaza a Palestinian state, you know, like Brazil, Argentina, Greece, France, right? Then it could have ports and airports and bring all the weapons in it wants to. To say that Iran's under the snapback sanctions and can't bring weapons into Gaza, if you believe that, you've been taking too much LSD or something. Okay? Iran doesn't pay attention to any of these international laws. Neither do any of these jihadist terrorist groups. So, Trump telling everybody that there's not going to be an annexation of the West Bank is a pretty serious problem. Because it means he wants to manipulate Israel. Which in some ways he likes Netanyahu, he said. In other ways, Netanyahu's a pain in the neck. Netanyahu is not really pressing the war forward. He's playing the game again with blowing up the real estate. That's not how you win a war. You blow the enemy up. But if you blow the enemy up, the war would have been over in 6 months. And he would have had to face his criminal trial, and he'd be in jail right now. And Trump's publicly talked about this. So what do? Well, we have the curse of Netanyahu on Israel. That's that. The people voted this crook into office because they want the corruption. And now we got him. Our water here, we're right near the Sea of Galilee, and our water here used to come from, I think it still does today, but not for long, comes from the river or some streams or something. So it had minerals and nutrients in it. Now, because of this drought in the Sea of Galilee, they're rerouting things. They stopped putting the desalinated water into the Sea of Galilee for some reason. And after only 2 or 3 days, maybe they woke up Now they're cutting our river water off and they're giving us desalinated water, which has no minerals or nutrients in it. Well, I normally don't drink tap water. We use it for washing, bathing, cooking. But we also give it to the dogs. So now we've got to figure something out for the dogs, or they'll just get, depleted of the minerals and nutrients they get from the water. So I'm worrying about how to do that. If we put electrolytes in the water, they'll probably smell it or taste it and not drink the water, because they won't know what it is. It's a problem. One way to deal with it easily is make bone broth with good water, but you got to do it in a way you don't kill the nutrients in the water, and they'll just lap it up like crazy. I've got to think about that. That's just Netanyahu the moron, Do you know that the dumbest true believer is smarter than the smartest Satan bot? Uh-huh. Because he ain't going to the lake of fire forever and ever and ever. But the Satan bot is. So how smart can the Satan bot be? They're idiots. They're not smart. They're morons. So, don't think that Netanyahu is so smart. He ain't. He's vicious. He understands politics. And he's going to have to try to move Trump off his position, but I don't think Trump will move. No. This can be a ruse also when Netanyahu and Trump worked it out that Netanyahu's going to annex the West Bank and Trump's going to just tell the media how mad he is and Netanyahu, and it's just another ruse. Okay? Maybe Trump is trying to get his enemies to attack Quantico, thinking there's going to be 800 generals and admirals there, and they're not going to be there. They might send regular, lieutenants, low-level officers there, dressed up as generals and admirals. And they might get attacked. Quantico is where the FBI trains. They do their cadets there. They do their older agents, advanced training there and stuff like that. It's a Marine base. I really don't think this meeting is going to happen. I don't think so. It's like he wanted to create a ruse, a distraction, or a feint that would be so dramatic it would draw attention, and the enemies of America would realize that you can't ignore it. Then last night with the 30 refueling tankers, there's already refueling tankers in the Middle East and in Europe. It's not like they had none. This is just additional. That's a lot of planes. Now, curiously, Russia has been warning Iran in recent days, not weeks or months, days, that an attack on their nuclear facilities, let's call it, in Iran is coming again. Now, the snapback sanctions just went into effect 2 days ago, and they're pretty serious. So Iran is, more than likely going to retaliate some way, shape, or form. And their best bet, in my book, is to shut the Persian Gulf. The members of the Knesset, our Congress, the One House Congress, is making moves to put our death penalty for terrorists into effect. We've had this type of a death penalty on the books for ages. The only time we ever used it was against Adolf Eichmann, where we kidnapped him and put him on trial. They might use it again. That will raise tensions, and that will end the prisoner trade. If we had been using the death penalty, there wouldn't have been many prisoners to trade with. They go right back to Hamas and try to kill Jews right after they get released, The IDF is saying 780,000 have fled the Gaza City area. So quite a few have, left. So they still might have 200,000 laying around over there. So I don't know what their plan is. When the people start seeing the Israeli tanks in the streets, they run away. Now, if you ever stood next to a tank, the noise and the vibrations would have you vibrating. They're very scary things. Part of the snapback sanctions on Iran, I just found out last night, is this. The insurance companies are bound from insuring Iranian ships carrying contraband based on the sanctions, which would be oil, natural gas, military supplies, weapons, strongly directly related to military supplies. So if the insurance companies were to insure an Iranian ship carrying oil or natural gas or missiles or something like that, and they got caught, what would happen is they would have snapback sanctions placed on them. So the big insurance companies are likely not to want to insure any Iranian shipments of oil or natural gas. Now, pistachio nuts and things like that, I believe they would be allowed to uh, insure. The other thing is, under these sanctions, ships, the Iranian ships, can be interdicted and searched to make sure they're not carrying contraband. This is the UN sanctions. And if they are carrying contraband based on the sanctions, the the people that interdicted the ship have a right to confiscate the load. Now, I don't know what they do with the load. They keep it, they destroy it, they sell it. I don't have any idea, but they can keep the oil. And there's a tremendous amount of money in that if they let them keep it. So people would start to become like mercenaries or pirates and start doing it just to get rich on their booty. So if Iran ships anything that is prohibited, it can be seized. And that not only is economically uncomfortable, it's a loss of face because the boat would probably get seized too. So that's a good way of, I think they got about 13 oil tankers, something like that. So if you start sieging those, then you don't have any oil tankers anymore. It's going to be harder for Iran to break sanctions. They're going to respond to this. The Houthis appear to be gathering or preparing. Let's use the word preparing, not gathering. Preparing to invade Israel from Jordan and Syria. This is part of an operation that they're calling Jerusalem Flood. The Houthis are currently training tens of thousands in Yemen. That's nothing new. To take part in the mass terrorist incursion So the Israeli intelligence is closely watching what's going on in Yemen with a specific eye to observing if they're moving these people to Jordan and Syria in order to threaten the borders of the Jewish state. Now, Syria and Jordan have borders with Israel, that's why they would use those. There would be like another October 7th they're hoping for, but I doubt it. Michigan church shooting, mass shooting, multiple victims, church was set on fire. I believe they caught the guy. They might have killed him, that's how they caught him, or they just caught him. On Saturday, Today is Monday, right? Yep, Monday. Southport mass shooting suspect was identified okay. Oh, okay. So in Southport, the mass shooting there on Saturday was a crowded North Carolina restaurant. There were casualties. So that happened on Saturday. So then now they recently identified who the suspect, the shooter was. Okay. Trump is bringing 200 National Guard into Portland, I think predominantly to protect ICE and their offices. That's what I think. It was his demonstrations against ICE. ICE is the one picking up the people and shipping them out of the state. So, there's a lot of blowback against Trump over the 200 National Guard people in Portland. And that, as I say again, is an instance of ruler versus ruler. The mayor and the courts, I imagine they're going to try a court case against this move. Going against Trump is ruler against ruler. Not in the physical sense, but in the sense of ruler against ruler. It still, I would think, applies, you know. I just, again, guys, I just can't, in these days, in these trying times, I just can't fathom Trump letting 800 generals and admirals and high ranking colonels gather together in Quantico with him and Hegseth at the same time. I mean, maybe God put it on as a snare and he'll destroy them or something, but I don't think it's in the scriptures. I just can't imagine these people being that stupid and doing something like that. Plus, what if there's attacks on American positions overseas while all the generals and admirals are in Quantico? It might take to somebody, to get back to Korea or Asia or the Middle East could take, anywhere from a half a day to a day. Probably take close to a day or a day and a half. I don't understand this. Nothing like this ever happens. If Hitler was going to call the generals in from the Russian front, he'd call 2 or 3 of the top generals, the general in charge of the air and the infantry, and maybe a Navy admiral or something like that, and he'd call them in and coordinate with them, and the actual other generals would still be there doing the commands. Usually the 4-star general, it's not usually handling the day-to-day battle, is oversight, on the whole picture, like what? Like supplies, food, medical, gasoline, equipment, planes, ammo, troops, communications, weather problems, budget problems, Congress problems, stuff like this, political problems. And the other generals, the 1 and 2-star generals are more or less handling the actual battles. Now, when you have something really big like a D-Day or something like that, you're going to have 4 and 5-star generals hanging around there, But when they did things like that, detecting large troop movements was not always possible. So they would move 1,000 ships with troops and all kinds of equipment and everything to do an invasion with hundreds of aircraft and stuff like that. And they could keep it rather quiet because they could have these forces assemble in the ocean coming from different ports. And, there weren't drones, there weren't any, reconnaissance planes, or they call them satellites. None of that stuff was around. So they could, they make believe that satellites really exist, as if they could penetrate the firmament and they're 25,000 miles out. Yeah, right, sure, they're on. How would the satellite maneuver on the other side of the firmament, because it's filled with water? It's not a vacuum. So what's it, a submarine thing? No, it's absurd, guys. If you don't believe the Bible, you'll believe the army. If you believe the Bible, you can't believe them. So that means, if I'm right, that today, tomorrow, the day after, there's going to be some big breakout of war. And the refueling tankers is backing that up. And the fact that Trump or the military waited to the last minute to move them makes it even more implicating. 2 Russian hypersonic missiles struck Ukraine's, I cannot pronounce this name, Starotostiana base, an air base today or yesterday, destroying 5 U.S. supplied F-16 fighter jets, ouch, an unknown number of British supplied Storm Shadow missiles, Storm Shadow / Scalp, SCALP missiles, along with dozens of NATO instructors and targeting people. I understand that it was a wipeout on the base. So these missiles must have been very large warheads, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 kilos or something like that. I don't know. but I understand it was a big, devastating wipeout. In addition to the refueling tankers, we have reports of trainloads of U.S. tanks seen in Estonia moving towards the Russian border. Now, normally they'll put one tank on a train car, and a train could could pull 100 cars, so they could have 100 tanks. That's a lot of firepower. A lot of times Iran is right about things. Not Iran, Russia with their intel. They got pretty good intel. They warned Turkey once of something that was going to happen, an attack on them, overthrow a few years ago when it was right, and America didn't warn them or something. I don't know. So their warning Iran makes me think that they're probably basing it on something. Now, I didn't get any intel reports who would be attacking their nuclear facilities. So it could be America, it could be Israel, and it could be a conglomeration of other countries. For instance, France, uh, Germany, and the UK. Those were the three that were pushing for the snapback sanctions. So it could be those three combined with America and Israel doing it, although I don't think those three would let Israel participate. They would with America. Denmark scrambled fighter jets after drones appeared over the island of Bornholm. I guess that's part of their country of Denmark. So there's more problems coming from Russia still. And Vietnam evacuated 250,000 people from the coastlines and was closing airports ahead of the typhoon, or you could call it a hurricane, uh, Bualo. So there's a big storm coming, and they wanted their people safe, so they basically get them off the coastline, and I guess they didn't want the airports there because it's going to be rather disruptive weather with high-speed winds. It's like this. Um, yeah, it's certainly an interesting day in the news, you know. Let me go into the live stream, see what's going on. If I'm getting any questions or anything, which I don't think I am. So I'm sitting here wondering what's going to happen next. You know, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I don't know. Um, this is a critical period. Most of the people have no concept of that, though, but it is. Let me check my social media, which is where we get a lot of good stuff. It comes a lot of it sources out of Arabic, out of Farsi, uh, English, Hebrew. Oh, the flotilla. Let's see where that's going. There's about 40 vessels in the flotilla with Greta Thurmond, whatever the jerk's name is. It's about 550 kilometers away from Gaza. They'll be here later in the week, it looks like, if they can maintain their speed. They had a touch of bad weather. Whatever happens, they're not going to let them land in Gaza. The latest thing now we're getting is the same people that organized the flotilla are saying that on October 1st, there's going to be a ship carrying 100 international journalists and doctors that will sail to Gaza with the aim of increasing media coverage from Gaza and providing medical assistance. They have not yet revealed where the ship is going to depart from. So let me explain what they're going to do if they get this to work. Bring the doctors. The journalists will never get on shore, but bring the doctors on shore. And then all the Hamas guys collect at the hospitals, and the international doctors will be there for weeks. So they get the battle to stop. That's essentially what they're trying to do. They're just going to keep trying. Israel can't let them in. I mean, it's going to look bad when we don't let the doctors in, but they screwed it up by sending 100 journalists with the doctors. This is an attempt to get the war to stop before Hamas gets defeated. And we could all owe the idiot Netanyahu something for dragging the war out, because it should have been finished already. And Trump was warning him and he wouldn't listen because he's afraid to go to jail. The people in Israel, should have, like 6 months ago at least, voted him out of office because of the prison cases and him dragging out the war. But they didn't. They are under this artificial belief that you don't want to change a ruler during a war because it shows weakness to the Arabs. I agree, it's correct, but the weakness intrinsically embedded in Netanyahu is so bad, it's better to change him. But who are you going to get? That's the next thing. Bennett, that's the same thing as Netanyahu with a different paint job. They're going to get another Satan bot. And that's not going to work because Satan's not going to tell them to destroy the Muslims in favor of the Jews. He wants the Jews dead. So what's the point of it? Yeah, I mean, in reality, now the Israelis don't think this way, but in the reality, changing one Satan bot for another doesn't do any good. This whole government got to go, and it will. not getting rid of Netanyahu and put Bennett in. The whole thing they call a democracy. God never runs Israel to democracy. The best way is with the judges. He did that in the past. The kings are not his desired way of doing it. Look at what Solomon did when he was king. He had riches beyond belief. I mean, he'd make Elon Musk look poverty-stricken, for his time. But, that's not the preferential way to do it. What do? They take the sons of the people and put them in the army to protect their palaces and their wealth and to attack other countries and get richer with the blood of your children, and that's what democracies do. I remember I saw this, I put this on my Telegram, a glacier collapsing, a video of it. I remember quite a few years ago, it might be 15, 20 years now, the Japanese came and they got a glacier down around Antarctica or someplace, and they towed it back to Japan. And the glacier was, many, many hundreds of years old. Very, very old. Hundreds and hundreds of years. So it had ice from hundreds and hundreds of years ago, which means it didn't have any contamination and stuff. So they got the ice. They probably took jackhammers and, broke it up and took the ice and melted it and bottled it. They just melted the ice and bottled the water and sold it. I was never able to lay my hands on any of that. By the time I found out that it actually happened, the bottles were all sold. But I have no idea what it would have tasted like, but I would have loved to have tried it. The best water that I ever really drank in the bottled water, Fiji is excellent, and Evian is pretty good. You got to look at the pH. You want to have at least a 7.5 pH, higher even better. So we have one here. I don't know what the pH is. I could check. Called Gani Den, Garden of Eden. It's water we get. It's natural spring water or something. And I believe it. If I'm remembering, it has a pretty high pH. It's very, very tasty water. It's very good. I think when the Japanese bottled it, they didn't put it in plastic. They would have put that water in glass, so you wouldn't have had any interaction with the plastic at all. But that was an interesting thing. I'm surprised it was never reproduced. Maybe the demand for that water was less than they thought it was, and they couldn't get the premium prices or something. But they never reproduced it. And I think if they made, $15 million or $20 million off it, they'd do it, twice a year, but they never did it again. Netanyahu did have some sort of an emergency meeting with his cabinet about what's going on with, Trump and, the no annexing the West Bank. And Netanyahu said he's going to try to talk Trump out of it. And that means that if he doesn't talk Trump out of it, he's going to comply with it. And that means that the people in the right wing, Ben Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, are going to read the Riot Act to Netanyahu and tell him how important it is, and it is. Now, we don't know what'll happen. What's going on here? Hold on. No, I'm not getting any, anything else. Let me see where else we could look and see if anything happened yet. Something's going to happen. There's too much stuff going on. Something's going to happen very quickly, I believe. Oh, Trump's running around saying, "Oh, we're close with the Gaza ceasefire." It's not close, and the Hamas hasn't said boo about it. You know. Here we go. Herzog, who is the president of Israel, not the prime minister. The president of Israel is about equivalent to the Secretary of State in America. Not a vice president, or not like a vice prime minister or something like that. He said he could grant Netanyahu a pardon. So what does that mean? It means that they want to stop the division in the government with a vote of no confidence and just give Netanyahu a pardon. And if they give Netanyahu a pardon for his corruption, then the courts and the attorney general can't do anything about it. They could attack the pardon, I suppose, but I don't think they'd get anywhere. And then Netanyahu could behave freely without worrying about what's going to happen. So maybe they would do that, and then Netanyahu might, okay, what it might be is Netanyahu agrees to step down if he has the pardon. So he keeps all his money that was probably ill-gotten, as a guess, I don't know. And then he doesn't have to worry about anything. But they'll just put another Satan bot in place. Believe me, it's not going to get anywhere. When God puts the two witnesses in place, that's when it will get somewhere. He's saying that these criminal corruption cases are weighing heavily on Israel's society. It's kind of vague, I think. A lot of demonstrations and stuff like that. Maybe Netanyahu's not going to step down. It might just mean that they're not going to have the vote of no confidence so quick or at all about Netanyahu. And he'll just remain in office, and they're going to try to just get more solidarity this way. So I'm not hearing anything about Netanyahu stepping down. I wish we would, but we're not. We're getting reports from Keith Kellogg, who confirmed that Zelensky got permission from Trump to strike deep inside Russia, but I have not seen a confirmation. I think maybe I did, that Trump was going to give him tomahawks to do it with. So the two can go hand in hand. So that could be what's going on. Not that alone is going to cause it, but cause this, whatever's happening to happen, but it's going to hurt Russia. During yesterday's Russia missile attack on Ukraine, it was some sort of a small projectile or missile fragment crashed into the Polish consulate building in the capital of Ukraine. That is probably just an accident. The U.S. sent a missile cruiser to be with Denmark. That's also pretty interesting. Maybe to do takedowns of drones and missiles. Don't know. Probably. else do I got? Anything exciting? Let's see. This flotilla thing can cause problems if they're keeping it up with persistence, which it appears they are. It can cause blowback on Israel and problems and difficulties, and it likely will do that. That's a shame, but I have a bad idea that it will. They're doing anything they can politically and diplomatically to save Hamas. Hamas is, and its supporters. It doesn't mean it's going to work. Is Trump likely to attack Gaza? No. I go 0 on that. I don't believe he'll do it. It'll cause so much demonstrations and problems in America and in Congress and court cases and oh my gosh, why would he do it? First of all, he doesn't have to do it. There's no real goal in there. So why would he do it? Israel could do it. Doesn't need to do it. Let's see if there's any questions coming up. No. So what do you guys do at this point? Well, remember multiple times Yeshua said watch. So we're watching. Now we know what to watch for, the world doesn't. So in a sense, the Lord's showing us the signs for our sake, although he's also fulfilling the prophecy of these signs happening. The fires in America are every day, multiple fires daily building up. Tensions and the pressure against Israel is rising. The only country that tends to do anything for Israel, give a hoot about Israel, is America. And all they got to do is get America to stop, and then Israel's going to either have to cave into the nations or they'll destroy it. Caving into the nations would mean Israel just gets destroyed slowly. God's not going to let any of this happen, though. So we just wait and watch. Is Trump blowing up the buildings? He calls for them to be evacuated and him blows them up in Gaza. Is that going to end the war in Gaza? How could you tell me it's going to end the war in Gaza? It's not. He's playing games. Nasty man. Nasty thing. Just sick individual. Like all of them. Demented at the deepest level. So what do? We pray, we bind, we loose, we wait. I hope you guys have been realizing some peace since we did that binding on the surveillance thing or observing you and knowing what you're doing. That should be helpful. You should start seeing that you got less bad stuff from that jackass Satan again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command you unclean spirits to come out from every person inside anybody that works for any government in Israel, national or local, or any government in America. Depart from all these people immediately, never to return unto them again. and you unclean spirits cannot go into any of these people again for 1 year continuously, beginning now, nor shall you be able to guide them, lead them, direct them, appear to them, communicate with them, or do anything with them or for them for 1 year continuously, beginning now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. You ought to find that rather difficult. And I command all you unclean spirits to depart from every person in Monaco. All of them. It's come out from everybody. So there's no unclean spirit in anybody in Monaco anymore. And you unclean spirits shall never return unto them again. And no unclean spirit shall go into any person that is in Monaco for the next 1 year continuously. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and any person that enters into Monaco, you unclean spirits shall depart from for the next year continuously. You shall immediately depart from them as soon as they step foot in Monaco. For 1 year continuously, beginning now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. I command all you unclean spirits to depart from every person that works for or is part of the government of Russia on a local or a national level. Depart from all these people immediately, never return unto them again. And for 1 year continuously, you unclean spirits shall not be able to guide, lead, direct, help, assist, or go into any person that's part of the government of Russia on a national or local level. And these commands are set in place now for 1 year continuously. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you can agree with all this. You should be agreeing with all if you're a true believer. Make it stronger. Okay. And I pray to you, my Heavenly Father, Yehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, to pour out your Spirit on all the true believers and their households, that they be happy, healthy, and whole, and their animals and pets would be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray for good health and healing for them, and peace, and calm, and rest, and joy. And I pray you remove the works of the unclean spirits and the people that serve the unclean spirits from them or affecting them through others or through corporations or governments or religious organizations or anything else. That all these stumbling blocks, obstacles, problems be removed from them. And I pray that abundant money would flow to them, their businesses would have sufficient clients and customers, and they would have an excess of money. And I pray all this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I pray for better videos, and I pray for me and my wife to have peace, safety, protection, joy, calm, and rest. Pray for our finances and our animals and pets. Be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. And pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. Pray for more and better insights into the Bible and current events. And I ask this B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm hitting a dry spell again on the offerings, of which I'm confused and I don't know why, but that's the case. So if anybody knows why, let me know. But we're supposed to watch, so I do the news and I explain what's going on. But remember, I keep saying that everybody's going to be taken off guard including us. We're not going to be taken off guard in terms of, we know the incidents that are going to happen, but the timing will probably be something we didn't expect. Where the nations and the people in general, the churches included, don't even know what to expect, let alone timing. All right, guys, so I'm out. Thanks.